Okay, you want to buy a property, but you cannot buy it now, and you're feeling a little bit anxious about this market pulling away from you, but it's all about your financials. Do we have a solution for you?
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Morning Minutes, episode 396. Lay-by Afterpay for your property has COVID-19 screwed your 2020 financial statements. I think this would impact a lot of people, Mark, where they've had a great 10 years, 20 years working, great couple years, saved a big deposit, were going for a loan, or had pre-approval. They had to shut down their business, income stopped, and they want to buy, but their 2020 financials just aren't there. Yes, some banks are excluding them, but not all banks are. What's the solution? Because people are forecasting 20% growth, Mark, over the next 2 years. So do you just cop it on the chin and have to buy into the market at a 20% higher rate, or is there a solution?
And it's not hard to do the maths of that FOMO maths that people have. So they're thinking, hang on a sec, I want to buy a unit for 700 grand, 500 grand maybe. Okay, 500 grand, say. They're going, you know what? I know I'm going to be there in 12 months' time. I know I am. Like, work's good, business is good, life's good, figures will be good. But I also know in my heart that the market's going to be up at least 10%, potentially more. So I'm going to have to pay 50 grand more. And I've just taken 5 years saving a 50 grand deposit. So now I'm going to have to pay 50 more for a property in a year's time because of how I look on paper. But a lot of people on paper, believe it or not, on purpose, didn't want to look good on paper through COVID.
Very
Do you know
true.
what I mean? So, and I feel really awkward about it, saying that there'd be people like this in the marketplace, but there was incentives for the government that if you weren't making money. So a lot of people took the small uplift, and then they didn't realise in the long run they screwed themselves because their financials aren't looking good. And I know banks can't use this against you, but why do they ask the question of, did you take any job seeker payments when you're going for a loan if it's not a consideration? So there is some sort of consideration there, whatever that may be. And I think this is great. This is a great solution, what we've got for everyone today.
Yeah, you're exactly right, because a lot of people who may not be in business may not know what the structure was for a business owner. They knew their personal one. But for a company, if you were down 30% in revenue, you were able to get incentives that way. So some people took cash, some people closed for 2 or 3 days. However they got the drop, they were very incentivized to do so. But then when you apply for a loan, your revenue's down 30%. So it was a double-edged sword for some people. So what can someone do, Mark? Are you talking a long settlement? Are you talking about, I don't know, buying land and building? What's a good solution if someone wants to get in the market but they can't necessarily finance it right now?
It's a solution, but it's speculative. It's a solution, but it is speculative and there is risk. But in your heart of hearts, sometimes you go, you know what, I just know it's the right thing to do. And guess what it is? It's off the plan. We've got, as an example, we've got a 1-bedroom unit for sale for $675. We've got a 2-bedroom unit for sale for $950. If you put down 10% today, you don't have to pay a mortgage for 2 years, but you have price locked the property for 24 months' time, for 2 years' time. Now, a couple of things. You've got to be sure that you're going to be able to get the loan in 2 years. You're going to be sure that you've got to have a job and a stable income over the next 2 years in order to do this. But you just go, mate, you must get, business is great. it can't waver the next 2 years. My deposit is good, it's there, and I know in this core market or where I'm going to buy that this core market's going to kick in the next year or two. What a great idea!
Yeah, and even if it's a bonus if the market goes up, but even if it stays still, you would have had 2 years to get your finances to get the loan, because even if the market doesn't go up, you can't buy it now, but you will be able to finance it in 2 years with the bank records. And if you're buying a property, it's either essential because you need it, or you believe that's the path for wealth creation. And there's always going to be micro markets, like good times and bad times within a 3-year period. But over the long run, you know you're going to be better off. We touched on it yesterday. We're working longer. We've got longer to have our investment properties. So you know you just need to get into the market. And it's almost like you've got the deposit now. A lot can happen in 2 years where you spend it, and it whittles down. So the bonus is the market going up. But even if it's just securing a property, get the deposit out of your savings account, which is very accessible, and just have that locked in. And then you just spend the next 2 years working, saving. For most of the time, people are getting loans with 5 to 15% of the value. So if you already put a 10% down, you've got 2 years to get another 5%. You can be quite comfortable to finance that, even if the price moves, even if the price goes a little bit down. And if the price goes up, you're laughing. So I think that's the key there.
I like that. And you can't forget that if we are buying something, y'all buying something off the plan, if y'all buy something off the plan, it would be good to buy in an area that has low supply and low potential of supply. And what I mean by that is you just don't want to go into a part of Sydney or Queensland or wherever that may be, where there's going to be a bucket load of units dropping in 2 years' time that's going to put a downward pressure on your property. So the secret or the solution I would put on the table is a low supply suburb together with off the plan. I potentially think you're a real winner. I've done it myself with my own money.
But just double check the density of the suburb, because sometimes you think a lot of units are being built, but in the overall it's not. Like Mark, we had this in DY. Everyone was like, so many units being built in 2017, 18. And when you took the step back going, 300 are being built. Well, actually 600 were being built, but it's out at 9,000. And they're like, okay, not as
over
much.
40, over 10, 15 years.
Yes.
Nothing.
But when it's 600 being built and there's only 50 and they're building a new suburb, okay, what's going to be the take up here? Or even if it's 50 units being built and there's no units, what will the take up be when it's a heavily house area? I know I was speaking to a buddy who works, I forget where, it's somewhere where it's heavily there's not many units and there's a few unit blocks going up, but it's basically a house area. So units, they seem good, but they're not selling as quick. So there's things to look for. So don't be deterred when you see 3 or 4 buildings going up if there's already an established. If anything, I'd rather buy in a suburb that has 5,000 established units and they're building 1,000 more, especially if you see them turning, rather than a suburb which may have 5,000 homes but only 100 units and they're building 500 units. So you've just got to look for that, especially when people are buying interstate, which I don't really recommend, because think of your own suburb. There's sometimes if there's there's a good side of the street and a bad side of the street. How will you know that in Gold Coast? How? You just know.
I don't want to bash up the GC, but I was talking to a school friend of mine last night who we manage a property for, and he's like, and I got this place, killer. I got this place, killer. And we bought something off the plan in up north. I'm not going to, in Queensland. And he said, and you could literally hear out his hand in his head. He's like, hasn't done any capital growth in 5 or 6 years. And I was like, what? Like, how does that happen? And that's how it happens. Too much supply dropped in. Now, a couple of myths, Michael.
Yes. Tell us.
The when you put down a 10% deposit, lay-by, afterpay, price lock style, if the property is worth 500,000 when you put your deposit down, and it is potentially worth 600,000 in 2 years' time, do you pay 500 or 600? Have you locked your 500 price in and don't have to pay more?
It's all locked in at 500, and new legislation has made it very hard for developers, very close, impossible for them to pull out to screw you. I've had that with a few meetings, like, yeah, but aren't developers able to get out of it? They've changed all that December 1st, 2019. So if the property is worth a lot more, you've basically locked it in at the lower price. Bravo, protected.
Okay, so that's price lock. Do you have to pay a mortgage for the 500,000 for the next 2 years with no rent coming in because it's an off-the-plan property?
No, technically you haven't even gone for your loan. You put the 10%, secured it. You don't go for finance until it's ready. Nothing to pay, just like lay-by.
Then you get to go through when it's finished, make sure it's what you've committed, it's what you bought, and check.
Any other myths? Warranty insurance.
Bad building?
Yeah, bad building. There's personal guarantees on the developer now, so they can't just close down the company. You've got 6 months when you've moved in to just check PowerPoints, and if that's working, and then most buildings have years insurance as well. So there's a lot of protection on a lot's been learnt over the last, say, 10 years of people being screwed, bad things happening. And a lot of that's been rectified. We have sometimes you hate it how proactive and much red tape is put into everything from, don't get me started on rants like that. But there's a lot of consumer protection around off the plan and construction. So I think you need to have faith with that and I think that's the simplest way to put it. It's not the wild west.
And that's a wrap. So in conclusion, Afterpay, it's pay after, I should say, or lay buying, or price lock. All of those things, if you are not eligible to jump into a property lock, stock and barrel today, you do have a solution to buy off the plan. And that's also a great, which I like, because you're not competing for the one property in an open house and outbidding each other. Off the plan stuff, you can actually just point and shoot, and you've got a selection of properties that you can actually buy, so you don't
fixed prices generally.
Yeah, the price isn't running on you like some of these property prices at the moment. You put an offer in, next thing you know, it's gone for 50 grand more or 30 grand more.
Yeah, and that's not because the agent's playing games, it's just for the market. So it's really good to see a fixed price, put a small deposit down, do your due diligence, and then pay the balance. I think it's going to become very, very popular in the next coming weeks. And fortunately, we have a building in DY to sell you. All right, that's a wrap. Cha-ching. Thank you, everyone.
See you guys.